My name is Frank Armstrong, and this is my 1967 Cessna 150G.
Production of the Cessna 150 began in 1958. Because of how easy they are to fly and that they get the equivalent of 25 to 30 miles per gallon, Cessna called this airplane the Commuter. The 150 has 2 seats and will cruise at about 100 knots for 4 hours. Over the years, these airplanes were and still are used as primary trainers. In this video, we're going to talk to Frank about the Cessna 150 and then take it up in the air for a flight. So let's learn more about the Cessna 150 from Frank.
Back in 2005, I used to live in San Antonio, and I enrolled in the A&P program at my local community college. And that was sort of my first day of college. This is what I'm going to do. And you know, I was interested in aviation before that, which is, you know, why it was easy for me to make that choice to say, hey, I'm going to go be an A&P mechanic. I just remember getting into the class and thinking, wait, this is not school. This is fun. You know, you go out there, you know, I was learning about interesting things, aircraft systems, engines, and then go out to the hangar and mess around, take things apart. I just thought it was the coolest thing. So I've been in the industry now for, 14 years. I started flying the beginning of last year. I was working with a coworker of mine who's an IA inspector, and he invited me to go out and help him out. So we started working together, and then one day he asked me, hey, do you want to get your pilot's license? And I was like, well, yeah, sure, but it's very expensive, and it could lead to other things which are very expensive. He said, well, I know someone who's an instructor, and you can use my airplane. And I was like, wow, that was I couldn't turn it down, the opportunity, so I took it. So I started training. I actually went and took my written exams first. Once I finished my written exam, that's when I took my first flying lesson. If I can stay focused and I can pass this written exam, then everything else should be pretty easy. And so I got my private pilot license in November last year, 2019. For the amount of flying that I want to do, it wasn't realistic to keep borrowing my friend's airplane. That's when I made the decision that, hey, I'm going to go look for an airplane and something that I can have and I can do not whatever I want, but I can take it whenever I want, and that was important to me. So this is a Cessna 150G. It's a 1967. The reason I bought this airplane specifically was because I was in the market for airplanes that were under 30,000. And so I looked at the Pipers, I looked at a Luscombe, and honestly, I wasn't crazy about the the trim with the Piper, and some of the Pipers also had the handbrake. So because I had trained on a 172, I felt comfortable in the 150. I felt like it just felt right when I got in it. I'm a low-hour pilot, so I'm getting close to 100 hours total time. So I consider myself a pilot in training still, and so now I also consider myself an owner in training, and I thought it was important to get something that was safe, reliable. They made a lot of these airplanes, so there's a lot of parts for them. As an A&P mechanic, I have the privilege of being able to work on my own airplane, and in the month that I've owned it, I've put that to use. So this is a standard 150. It's about, it's got total 26-gallon tank, so usable is about 22.5 gallons of fuel. The range is about 480 nautical miles, and you could probably stay up for about 4 hours. The cruising speed is 103 knots, so about 123 miles per hour. It's a relatively light airplane. It sits around 1,000 pounds currently, empty weight. The gross max weight is 1,600 pounds. So between fuel and 2 people, maybe a couple bags, you should be okay. Primarily, it's a trainer. I'm using it to build hours, but I'm also using it to hang out with my buddies, go to fly-ins, go to Cedar Mills every once in a while, go get a burger. I just really enjoy flying, so to me, this is like meditation. And so I use this airplane for health reasons. This airplane is a low-time airplane, so when I was looking to buy it, it had about 3,158 hours total time. Going through the logbooks, the owner kind of told me, hey, we think we might be missing some records. And I said, of course, there's always something. We noticed that between 1984 and 2003, there were no records for this airplane. However, It only had flown 100 hours. It could very well be that this airplane was in storage for almost 20 years. It's a good airplane. It checks out mechanically today. And that was what was most important for us is, what was the condition of the airplane as it sat today, right before I bought it. If you're buying an airplane that, you want to keep and eventually get top dollar for in the future, then you definitely want complete records. That's extremely important. Any kind of maintenance that takes place on an airplane, if it's not documented, then basically it didn't happen. You might have ADs that were done, but now you don't have a record of it, so now you've got to go back in and redo those ADs. Or we decided that it's very likely that the aircraft was in storage for 20 years, and we know that the aircraft spent a lot of time in storage throughout its life. Being an A&P and getting back into aviation and having my own airplane is just a great experience, and I'm excited about it. So.
All right, well, you ready to go fly?
I'm ready to go fly.
All right, let's do it.
Clear prop! Go ahead and taxi up. We're going to be taking off from 17.
Rockwell traffic, thrust 20s on the left downwind for 17, and we got the helicopter traffic in sight.
Got a little bit of a ground lead going on here.
Rockwell traffic, that is 18253, entering left downwind 17 Rockwell.
Alright, and I'm going to be holding short. Rockwell traffic, Cessna 3040 Sierra, holding short, runway 17 Rockwell. Alright, gauges, oil pressure, green, oil temperature still rising. We got suction above 4, that's good, and we still got the batteries charging. Alright, back drop, we'll go to the left. Alright, a little bit over 16, go back to both.
Rockwell traffic, that is 18253, turning at base 17 Rockwell.
A little bit over 16, that's good. Alright, before takeoff, we're going to go flaps 0. We're going to do trim set for takeoff, make sure it's going to be full rich, carburetor heat cold, windows, doors. Alright, the door's closed, I get the... Alright, so he's departed again. This is another one on final. Alright, we'll hold short. Rockwell traffic, Cessna 3040 Sierra, back taxiing runway 17, Rockwell. I think I heard somebody. Yeah, no, I think you're clear.
Rockwell traffic, thrust 20, left downwind 17, touch and goes, Rockwell.
This is the part where you can't taxi too fast because if you lose your brakes, you're gone. Yeah, this is not where you want to go right now. No, you don't. Rockwell traffic, Cessna 3040 Sierra, taking off, runway 17, Rockwell. Alright, airspeed's alive. Pull back. See if we can build some speed.
Rotate about 60 or so?
Yeah, about 60.
That's in miles an hour, right?
That's correct. And this is the part where you keep your 150 leveled up until 1,000 feet because you need all the lift you can get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's doing pretty well. It's, what, 600-700 feet a minute, and summer day. I mean, it's not hot yet, but that's good, though.
Right, plus I think,
traffic is stock 2
they always make those numbers out of, worst case scenario. Right.
Northwest of the field at 2,300, climbing to 4,500, and departing the area, of course, on traffic. Rockwell traffic, thrust 20, final 17, Rockwell.
Alright.
Giant traffic, Skylane 52372, left downwind for 17 Giant.
And we're above 1,000 feet. So now we can start our turn. Go out to the lake area.
So is this a pretty big practice area for trainers and such out here?
They come over here to do touch and goes. I did most of my training on
Wisner traffic, Legend Cup 221 Bravo Sierra is base for runway 18 grass, Wisner.
So about 670 feet per minute is what they're rated at. And
Current
then,
traffic, Skyline 527.
the ceiling on this airplane is about 12,500 something, 12,005. You know.
It's funny when people don't think about airplanes like this. This thing is actually more fuel efficient than a lot of cars.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 gallons an hour at 110 miles an hour. You know, you're going to do a lot more than that in your car.
And also, you know, the gas right now, because of the pandemic, it's
pretty
cheap. So, you know, I've bought fuel for $2.60.
That's pretty cheap.
It
for
is.
100 low lead.
And I think it went up to $2.90, but that's still cheap.
So you use what, 4Flight on your iPad?
I'm actually using WingX.
WingX.
I find it's a good program. I'm a VFR pilot. This is a VFR airplane, so it's pretty much all you need is the sectional map and a Stratux, and you're good to go. All right, there it is, and then we pull back power. So this is the fun part right here, is leaning it out for cruise.
3 west on a 45 for a...
Got to be a scientist to do this. Oh, that's too much. Yeah. And that's perfect.
So what do? You lean it out until it starts going rough, and then put it back a little bit back in?
Yep.
And so you're what RPM you normally cruising at there?
So we actually tested the RPM on this with a handheld sensor.
Right.
And so this actually reads higher than what it is.
Right.
So
we're doing 113 miles an hour.
Yeah, the ground speed.
Yeah. I always wanted to give. I mean, these would be great airplanes for like commuting. You know, like you say. I mean, if you're going, say you lived in Greenville and you worked in Addison or something, you know.
Right.
I mean, how long of a drive? It'd be 2 hour and a half drive, and it'd be a 30-40 minute flight, you know.
So I can tell you, for me, I live in Forney, which is east of Mesquite, about 37 miles from Dallas, and I work in Love Field. So I gotta commute to Love Field every day.
Yeah.
At least before the pandemic. Now I work from home, but this airplane's perfect because if I wanted to, I could take off from Air Park East and fly into work. You know, I haven't done that yet, but I've got a couple buddies of mine that's what they do. They would fly in. I had this other buddy of mine that would fly in every day in a Mooney.
Yeah.
And he loved it. You know, it's great. Something that I hope to do one day. So.
What do you have any issues with that? Like going into Love Field in a smaller airplane? I mean, now they're charging landing fees there, aren't they now?
They are charging a landing fee, but the only issue for me would be just, you know, I'm a VFR pilot and I've spent most of my time outside of the Class Bravo.
Right.
So the primary issue for me is being able to have that conversation with approach and tower and just being good at talking. And because if you don't talk right, they won't give you too much attention. They'll pretty much say, okay, go somewhere else.
Well, that's, you know, that's as you get more comfortable in the airplane and your skills and all that, and you have to start, you don't have to pay as much attention to actually flying the airplane. You always pay attention to flying the airplane, but you don't have to like think about everything you're doing all the time. You know what I mean? When you get better at that, then you can concentrate on being better on the radio and all that. So.
And you know, eventually I'll get a bigger airplane. I've got 3 daughters.
Right. Oh wow, yeah.
And so, but I didn't want to buy an airplane and have an excuse to take everybody out on a trip because I'm a low time pilot.
Right.
You know, it's not. I would do it eventually. You know, maybe if I get over 250 hours, 300 hours, I'll say, you know what, I'm ready for a bigger airplane.
Right.
I can. I'm a safe, reliable pilot, and.
Well, this is a good airplane to, you know, get your feet wet in it too. I mean, say you fly it for a year or so, and then you look back and you only put 20, 30 hours on it. And you're like, well, maybe I don't need to own an airplane, but you didn't spend $100,000 on it.
Right. And what's great about the 150 is, hey, when you're done with it, guess what?
There's a million people that want them.
Yeah.
And they're cheap enough that, you know, most people. I mean, you know, they're anywhere from $15,000 to $40,000. You know, I mean, or.
Yep.
And so, you know, it's like buying a car or less.
Yeah, and I've seen on right after the pandemic, I mean, Trade-A-Plane just got loaded with 150s. So I don't know if I mentioned, so out there in Lake Tawakoni, I did my first cross country out to Texarkana. I went from Texarkana to Lufkin, and then back. That was an interesting trip.
Yeah, doing your first cross country, your first solo cross country is pretty. I don't know. It's a good feeling, you know. You're out there and you're like, wow, I'm really doing this, you know.
Yeah.
I think I like that better even than doing, you know, your first solo. It happens so fast you're not even thinking about it, right? But your first cross country, you know, you're up there for 3 or 4 hours, and you're like, wow.
When I got back, I was like, oh my gosh, I survived, I made it. You know, I kissed the ground, and it's like, I didn't screw up. You know, when I bought this airplane, and my wife and I, we went up for 30 minutes locally. My family was like, hey, you need to write a will.
Oh, really?
And I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
you know, everybody, I've got 3 daughters, and
yeah.
you know, anytime you put yourself, a lot of people obviously don't think flying is safe.
Right.
And realistically, you know, it's not. There's a lot of things we do to mitigate risk.
Yeah. It's probably safer than driving a motorcycle or something, you know?
I think so.
Yeah.
And you know, they always say the most dangerous part is your drive from the house to the airport.
Yeah, right.
But
well, as long as you're careful. As long as you plan ahead.
Rockwall traffic, Cessna 3040 Sierra on the left downwind for runway 17, full stop Rockwall.
Cleburne traffic, 7 Air 07 West to you, right base 15 Cleburne.
And carb heat hot.
855 Mike, departing the pattern to the east. Have a good day, boys. Get 'em out.
And this 150 goes, it's got the flaps down to 40, but you really don't need to go down to 40. That's a lot for this airplane. So usually on final I'm at 30 degrees.
Yeah.
Cleburne traffic, Bonanza turning. Final.
Imagine 40, you got to keep a little power in there more than like it.
Yeah. Unless you're really, really steep.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, you don't need it. And I don't think they do 40 anymore on the 150s. All right, we're going to go 10 degrees, flaps.
Left final, runway 13, Catamills.
Nobody's coming, I don't see anybody.
No.
Durant traffic, RV 78 Charlie Foxtrot, entering a left downwind on a 45, 17 left, Durant.
Rockwall traffic, Cessna 3040 Sierra, entering the left base for runway 17, full stop Rockwall. I'll do 20. All right, nobody's coming.
Bravo, 10 miles west.
We're already here. That's a quick base.
RV 78 Charlie Foxtrot, left downwind, 17 Durant.
It's pretty much straight down the runway. It's pretty light, actually.
Yeah. There's some power lines down there. You got to be careful, though.
I've noticed that coming into Morocco before. These power lines are right off the end of the runway.
Yeah. All right, down to 30.
I used to have a twin Comanche I've flown in here once.
Rockwall traffic, Cessna 3040 Sierra on final for runway 17, full stop Rockwall.
Catamills traffic, Cessna 117, we're touch and go for 13, Catamills.
There you go, just a little fast, a little high.
Durant traffic, RV 78 Charlie Fox, left base 17 Durant.
Usually about 65 is what I'm comfortable with on this.
Canada traffic, Columbia 222 Bravo Yankee, 5 miles northwest, inbound, runway 14. Catamills traffic, Skyhawk 117, left base,
right.
13.
Right on the center line, man. Good job.
There it is.
Nice and smooth, too.
Left crosswind, 13, Catamills.
Yeah, it's a fun little airplane to go around in.
Oh yeah.
And I guess it is so light, so you have to kind of, well, it's not windy today, so it's not too bad, but on the ground, you gotta fly it all the way to the hangar, huh?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for taking me up. Good job.
Hey, my pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you, and
yeah, all right.
All right, Frank. Appreciate you, man.
Bobby, it was a pleasure. Thank you for coming out.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. Brings back some memories. That's what I did all my training in. So.
Well, you were a great passenger.
Well, thanks. Good pilot. All right, we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks. Well, thanks for watching another episode of Flying Doodles. Appreciate you. Please give us a like and subscribe if you're not already. If you're really enjoying the channel, it's patreon.com/flyingdoodles. That's how we how to fund this thing. And I'll be filming all summer. I'll be in North Texas some, and I'll be in the Annapolis, Maryland area. So if you'd like to come feature your airplane, shoot me an email, bobby@sailingdoodles.com, and we'll make it happen.